So a week ago, thought I knew why I was coming here, and I thought I knew why you were here. But on Tuesday night, I had a meeting with about 40 sponsors and organizers and volunteers, and my whole perspective changed. This conference is about changing Hungary. We've heard it many times. It's about creating hope, creating action, and changing Budapest, changing Hungary. And I think that's incredible. So I've been asked today to kind of share my story. I run a program called the Hero Construction Company. And it's been going for about 7 years, mostly in Michigan, in the United States. The Hero Construction Company, we build heroes. So it's a construction company, so we build. My friend Chuck came up with that idea for the name. I loved it. The only problem is I get messages from China every day offering to sell me steel and concrete. My story started as an Australian in Australia, frustrated with life, and I saw an ad in the newspaper about working at a summer camp in America. So I took this opportunity to take a break and go away for 3 months. Well, I stayed at that camp for 12 years, and it changed everything. It changed me, and it changed my life. I learned that I loved working with children. At summer camp, it's a great opportunity because parents send their kids, they give them to us for a week, and we get to do experiments with them. I probably shouldn't use that word with Phil Zimbardo in the audience. But we were able to just try things, see what worked and what didn't work, what was fun and what was changing people. How could we change these kids? I love working with kids because they are okay about trying new things. And very often, adults think, well, I know everything, so I don't need to do what you're talking about. I already know that what I do works and what you do doesn't work. Kids are not like that. They will try. So after 12 years at the camp, I decided I needed to do something new. And I had this idea of teaching programs in schools based around heroism. The basic idea at the start was to talk about the hero's journey that was made famous by Joseph Campbell, where the stories of all time follow the same basic path, whether it's stories from 2,000 years ago or last weekend at the movies. All of these stories basically start with a hero in a world that they don't really want to be, a boring place. They receive a call to action or a call to adventure, and then they enter a new world and start meeting new people, friends, enemies, mentors. They have challenges, they overcome trials, and they learn new things. And they come back at the end of this story as a different person and as someone who can bring back the knowledge that they gained. And I thought this was perfect for kids because they are going through these cycles every year in school. So every year they go into a new world, meet new people, overcome challenges and learn things and come out the other end as a different person. And I knew they understood it because when I was 10 years old, I understood it. I watched Star Wars. I knew how that worked. And they did understand it. And I thought the next part of this is that I need to talk about what makes someone heroic. If we're all the hero of our own story, that's kind of boring. That's not what we use the word hero for. So I thought about what makes someone heroic. How do we become someone who does something heroic? And my definition of a hero is someone who takes action for the good of somebody else despite a risk or sacrifice. And the ways that I worked with these 10-year-olds and 9-year-olds and 11-year-olds was to get them to start practicing doing good little things. And those good little things aren't heroic by themselves, but they prepare for bigger heroic things. I also talked about the importance of building a team around you, like every hero in every story does. We talked about getting comfortable being uncomfortable. So all of these things were getting put into this program. I would go into a school and speak for 1 hour, and then I would encourage the teachers to follow the lessons in their own classroom. So keep reminding kids to try doing little good things every day. Share hero stories with these kids. Share the stories of heroes from 50 years ago, from 100 years ago, or from yesterday. And in hearing about these hero stories, we're inspired to do heroic things ourselves. So about 3 months into doing this, I had been in a couple of schools. My first school was actually from Kansas. I never expected to leave Michigan doing this stuff, but Kansas was my first, and here I am in Budapest. 3 months in, I read a blog post that talked about an article that had been written about the value of heroism in today's world. So I clicked on the link and read this, I think it was about 4 pages, about the banality of heroism, this idea that anyone ordinary can do extraordinary things. I read it all the way through and had to go back again and read it again, because everything that was in that article was what I was already doing. So obviously I wanted to find out who these people were that had stolen all of my ideas. And one of them was Philip Zimbardo. The other was Zeno Franco. And at that time, I did not know who Philip Zimbardo was, but I knew from the blog post that he worked at Stanford, so I Googled it and sent an email to this guy. The article ended with this question of, should we research this? Should we find out why people do heroic things? So I wanted to send an email to say, yes, please, because I could use that research. It would help me a lot. So I sent this email and said, I'm very interested in what you're going to do next. Here's what I do. I got an email about 10 minutes later from a woman who was Dr. Zimbardo's personal assistant, saying, Phil's away at the moment on a book tour, but I'm sure he's going to want to talk to you. He'll be back in 2 weeks. So I kind of thought, okay, that's not going to happen. And then I get another email half an hour later, and it's from Phil. And he says, we definitely need to work together. I'm busy on this book tour on the East Coast right now, but I definitely want to hear more. And that was kind of the start of a beautiful relationship. I went to tell my wife that, this guy wrote back to me. He's some sort of doctor at Stanford. And she had a psychology degree. And she said, you got an email from Phil Zimbardo? I said, yeah. And I get that reaction a lot of times, actually. Some people definitely know who he is, and they're like, what? And some people are like, no, I don't know who that guy is. And that really allowed me to start building on the program that I was already doing. It introduced me to ideas around the bystander effect, about group dynamics, and allowed me to translate some of this difficult psychology, academic stuff into what 10-year-olds understand. And a lot of people think, well, 10-year-olds are not going to get that stuff. But they really do. They understand the bystander effect because they live it every day. Just nobody's bothered to explain it to them. So a big approach in these school programs now is schools want anti-bullying programs. And heroism is the antidote to bullying. The reason bullying happens is because nobody does anything. Everybody's watching. So in these trainings, kids now understand, oh, that's why I didn't step in when I saw that problem happening. It was because I was with my group, or it was because I didn't have a connection to this person, or it was because I was assuming someone else would be better at it. So the program expanded. I started talking to older kids. I started talking to bigger audiences. And one school in particular I want to share a story with you from. The principal asked me to come in to meet. They had an end of school sort of fun day program the year before. And this is a middle school, so in America that's 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, which I guess is about 11 to 13-year-olds. And at this fun day, a fight broke out. And as I'm sure happens in Hungary, because it happens everywhere, a huge crowd gathered around the fight. 100 of these kids, there were 800 kids in the school, and 100 of them went over to just watch the fight between two girls in 7th grade. And this principal was so upset by that because he had been bringing in programs that were anti-bullying and programs that were character building, but he saw this bystander effect problem, and so he was very interested to hear how it might work. So I went into the school, I delivered programs to all of the 6th grade classes, and one of the key messages is that everyone has the power to stand up and say something. And that if you see bullying happening, all you have to do is say to that person, that's not okay. This is my school too. That's not okay. Is that scary? Yes. But you can do it. And I came back to the school a few weeks later to talk about maybe speaking to the 7th grade and the 8th grade. And the principal had a story for me. In the second week of school, so I presented on the 3rd day of school, I think. That next week, one of the girls that was in the fight the year before was at the buses. I'm sure you guys are familiar with the big yellow school buses in America. And this now 8th grade girl was picking on someone, calling them names, physically pushing them around. And a 6th grader, who had only been at the school for 5 days, went up to this tough 8th grade girl and said exactly word for word what I had said. That's not okay, this is my school too. And the 8th grader stopped. Kids understand and they're willing to try that out. It works. It's a challenge to get into schools because they have their programs that they're already okay with. They think, yeah, it's a nice program. And they don't want to get bothered with something else. But when you get into a school, you can make change. I have since delivered these programs in England. I have a colleague today, I don't know where she is now, Michelle Verning is here from Germany, and she is running my programs in Germany. We've run it in Australia, in Paris, and it works everywhere. We have to make slight adjustments. So the examples that we give of heroes, they need to be culturally relevant, but it works. And I think it could work in Budapest. Last year, actually about 2 years from today, I had this idea of developing things a little further. I wanted to get all the people that I'd been talking to together in a room. Because just like what I did with Phil, if I see anyone writing about heroism, I email them, or I send a tweet, or I do something. And the common theme is that all of these people are doing their thing, and they've never heard about anyone else that's doing their thing. So I kind of felt an obligation to bring all these people together in a room and say, talk to each other and work something out. Build some programs, do something. Share what you've learned. And so after a few months of trying to make this happen, I met with a principal or an assistant superintendent in Michigan about getting into his school. And in the last couple of minutes, I just said to him, Adam, do you want to run a conference with me? I don't really know how to run a conference, but I think we need to do one. And he, crazily enough, said yes. And last year in November, we ran the first Hero Roundtable Conference. We had speakers from around the world coming to talk about what they were doing. And it was a broad range of speakers, just like today, and a broad range of people in the audience, just like today. And I think that is so important. I think it's fantastic that people are here from all different walks of life. On Tuesday night, there was a surgeon, there were business leaders, there were educators, there were academics. The problem that we have if we just run an academic psychology conference on heroism is you only get academics there. Problem if you run an education conference with only educators there, same thing. And what happened at this conference last year was that we saw all sorts of things happening. The Heroic Imagination Project is going to be starting up in Flint, Michigan this year. Flint, Michigan, if you're familiar with the most dangerous cities in America, is number one. If you think about how dangerous you can imagine some cities in America, Flint is number one, 3 years in a row. They have a lot to be pessimistic about. They have a lot of discussions about, individuals have discussions about, should I leave? In the last 10 years, they've lost a third of their population because people are leaving, thinking it's going to be better somewhere else, rather than staying and fighting to make things better. And I think there's a lesson there today for people in Budapest. I've heard a lot of talk today about how the Hungarian person is. I've seen 79% and 83%. And the funny thing as an outsider to this is that 100% of the Hungarians that I've met are very positive, are very excited. And I think you need to think about that. And the other thing that I noticed earlier today was this idea that today's Hungary is shaped by the past. And that's absolutely true. The past shapes the present. But I think you also need to remember that the present shapes the future. And there's no reason that the people in this room can't shape Budapest's future. And so I'm going to leave you with that thought. I think everyone in here can do something. And I think I'm a good example of that. I'm a nobody. I was just somebody who had an idea and started reaching out to people. And here I am now standing in Budapest talking to a large group of great people. Every one of you can do something. You can build something. So I hope two things. That one, you go away from today and take action. Do something. Even if it's talking to other people about what you heard today through all of these amazing speakers. And the other thing Gabor said earlier, make sure that you talk to the speakers. If anything I've said today made you curious, please come and find me. I have one Hungarian word, but I'll listen carefully to your English. So come and talk to me, come and talk to the other speakers, and do something. Make sure you take action tomorrow. Thank you very much.